First contact and trials. The Merodian starship Inevitable Convergence hung in Earth's orbit, its crystalline structure refracting sunlight in prismatic patterns invisible to human detection systems. On the command deck, Grand Arbiter Vexella studied the holographic projection of the blue-green planet with 6 calculating eyes. Primitive, she declared, mandibles clicking in mild disappointment. Yet another developing world. Barely into their information age. Science Minister Talzin approached, his slender form dwarfed by the Arbiter's armored exoskeleton. Appearances can deceive. Arbiter, our probes have detected anomalies in their developmental pattern. Anomalies. Vexella's antennae twitched with reluctant interest. This species should have destroyed itself centuries ago. They've survived multiple extinction-level events, some natural, others self-inflicted. Their adaptability metrics exceed predicted models by 327%. Vexella's compound eyes refocused on the holographic display. The High Council seeks solutions to the void crisis. You believe these, humans, might provide answers. I believe they warrant testing, Talzin said cautiously. Their physical capabilities are unremarkable, but their cognitive and emotional resilience seems unprecedented. After a moment of contemplation, Vexella nodded. Proceed with specimen collection. Standard protocol. Captain Maya Chen woke with a splitting headache. Cold metal pressed against her back, and bright light burned through her eyelids. Military training kicked in immediately. Assess, adapt, survive. She kept her breathing steady, feigning continued unconsciousness while cataloging sensory inputs. The air smelled sterile with undertones of something alien, metallic yet organic. The ambient temperature was precisely 68 degrees Fahrenheit, too precise for natural conditions. A faint humming surrounded her, rhythmic and mechanical. Your pretense is unnecessary, human. We can monitor your consciousness. The voice seemed to materialize directly in her mind. Neither male nor female, neither loud nor soft, yet perfectly comprehensible. Maya opened her eyes. The chamber was hexagonal, walls gleaming with an iridescent material that seemed both solid and fluid. Directly above her, a being observed her with multiple eyes set in an exoskeleton that reminded her of an elaborate fusion between an insect and a crustacean. Who are you? Maya asked, her voice steady despite the circumstances. Why am I here? I am Science Minister Talzin of the Merodian Collective. You are here to be tested. Maya sat up slowly, noticing she still wore her expedition gear minus her equipment. Tested for what? Survival. Adaptation. Problem-solving under impossible conditions. The alien's mandibles clicked. Your species displays unusual characteristics. We seek to understand them. A section of wall dissolved, revealing 3 other humans in identical chambers. Maya recognized 2 of them immediately. Dr. Sanjay Kapoor, the renowned physicist, and Alina Novak, Olympic champion and mountaineer. The third was a middle-aged man with dark skin and calm eyes who studied his surroundings with methodical attention. Captain Chen. Sanjay called, relief evident in his voice. Are you all right? I'm unharmed, Maya confirmed. What about all of you? They took us from the research station, Alina said, her athletic frame tense with controlled energy. One moment we were reviewing expedition plans for the Arctic Traverse, the next, here. The unknown man nodded toward Maya. Dr. Marcus Williams, trauma surgeon. I was in the middle of an operation in South Sudan when they collected me. Talzin moved between the chambers. You represent diverse aspects of human capability. The physicist's cognitive processing, the athlete's physical prowess, the soldier's tactical assessment, and the healer's adaptability. And if we refuse to be your lab rats? Maya challenged. What might have been amusement flickered across Talzin's alien features. Refusal is not a parameter in this study. The floor beneath them suddenly illuminated, displaying what appeared to be a labyrinth of shifting patterns. The first trial begins now, Talzin announced. Solve the unsolvable. Find the pattern that cannot be found. The walls of their individual chambers dissolved, uniting them in a larger space where the floor's illuminated patterns now rose as holographic walls, creating a maze that continuously reconfigured itself. Work together or separately. The choice is yours, Talzin said, moving toward an observation platform. Complete the maze to proceed to the next trial. There's a logical inconsistency in that instruction, Sanjay pointed out immediately. If the pattern is truly unsolvable, then we cannot be expected to solve it. Perhaps that's part of the test, Marcus suggested quietly, studying the shifting walls. To recognize impossible parameters and redefine them. Maya surveyed their environment with a tactical eye. Alina, what do you see from a spatial perspective? The mountaineer was already moving, tracing the edges of the maze with practiced precision. The reconfiguration isn't random. There's a rhythm to it, like breathing. Working together, they began to map the maze's transformations. Sanjay calculated the intervals, Alina tracked the spatial shifts, Marcus identified constraint patterns, and Maya coordinated their efforts. After 3 hours of exhaustive analysis, they reached a conclusion. It's not meant to be solved, Maya stated firmly, addressing Talzin directly. The pattern isn't just complex, it's deliberately contradictory. Each segment follows rules that make overall completion mathematically impossible. Then we reject the parameters, Sanjay said, his eyes bright with realization. The maze isn't just a physical challenge, it's a thought experiment. Maya nodded and stepped forward. We refuse your impossible challenge and propose an alternative. Turn off the maze. For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then, abruptly, the holographic walls vanished. Talzin descended from the observation platform, compound eyes fixed on the humans. Interesting. Most species continue attempting a solution until exhaustion or surrender. Humans recognize futility, Marcus said calmly. But we also recognize arbitrary constraints. The parameters were artificial, Maya added. In real survival situations, we don't just solve problems. We redefine them when necessary. Most intriguing, Talzin acknowledged. Rest now. The second trial will require different capabilities. The next trial placed them in simulated environmental extremes. Each human was subjected to conditions that should have been lethal. Temperatures approaching absolute zero, radiation levels exceeding survivable limits, atmospheric pressure variations that would crush or rupture most life forms. Protected only by thin environmental suits, they endured while solving complex engineering problems with severely limited resources. Your physical tolerance is remarkable, Talzin observed, monitoring their vital signs. But more impressive is your continued cognitive function under duress. Maya, working through a complex fuel recombination problem while her chamber simulated the pressure conditions of Jupiter's lower atmosphere, paused to glance at her companions. Alina was adapting her breathing techniques to conserve oxygen in near-vacuum conditions. Sanjay was solving quantum calculations despite extreme radiation exposure, and Marcus was performing delicate manipulations with tools despite temperatures that should have frozen his fingers solid. We've evolved to thrive in adversity, Maya managed through gritted teeth. Comfort is a recent luxury in our history. The trial continued for what felt like days, pushing them to the edges of human endurance. When they finally completed their assigned tasks, they collapsed in exhaustion as the environmental controls normalized. You've survived conditions that would kill 97% of cataloged sentient species, Talzin informed them. Yet your neural activity remained coherent throughout. Most puzzling. Not puzzling, Marcus corrected weakly. Human history is defined by enduring the unsurvivable. Ice ages, plagues, wars, natural disasters. Those who couldn't adapt died. We're descendants of the survivors. Mere biological adaptation doesn't explain your performance, Talzin insisted. There's something else, something we haven't quantified. Hope, Alina suggested, her voice hoarse. Determination. Stubbornness, Sanjay added with a weak smile. Whatever you call it, Maya concluded, It's kept our species alive when logic said we should have perished. And it's not something you can measure in a laboratory. Talzin's antennae quivered with what might have been excitement. The Grand Arbiter will want to observe the final trial personally. Your species may be more valuable than initially assessed. As the Merodian departed, Maya exchanged glances with her fellow captives. They were battered and exhausted, but something had changed in their shared ordeal. A bond had formed, and with it, a quiet determination. "Whatever comes next," she said softly, "we face it together. For Earth." The others nodded in solemn agreement, preparing themselves for the ultimate test that awaited them. Defiance and revelation. Grand Arbiter Vexella swept into the observation chamber, her armored exoskeleton clicking against the crystalline floor. She towered over Science Minister Talzin, her presence radiating authority that transcended species barriers. "These are the specimens." Her voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of Merodian dominance. "Yes, Arbiter. They've completed preliminary trials with unprecedented results." Vexilla studied the 4 humans through the one-way viewing field. They sat together in a recovery chamber, sharing quiet conversation despite their ordeal. "They appear frail and insignificant. Are you certain they warrant my attention?" "Their physical forms are indeed unimpressive," Talzin acknowledged, "but their adaptability exceeds all projections. Even more remarkably, they demonstrate abilities our scientists cannot quantify: intuitive leaps, emotional resilience, and creative problem-solving that defies logical analysis." "The Void Crisis threatens all Merodian territories," Vexilla said gravely. "We need solutions based on certainties, not anomalies. With respect, Arbiter, perhaps anomalies are exactly what we need. Conventional approaches have failed for 3 centuries. Vexilla's compound eyes narrowed. "Proceed with the final trial. I will observe." In the recovery chamber, Maya Chen assessed their situation with military precision. "They're escalating the tests. Each one pushes us further beyond normal human limits. The question is why?" Sanjay mused, his scientific mind cataloging possibilities. "Are we merely specimens in a cosmic zoo, or is there a practical purpose to these trials?" Marcus, who had been quietly observing the subtle patterns in the chamber walls, spoke thoughtfully. "I believe they're desperate. These tests aren't just academic. They're searching for something specific." "I agree," Elena said, stretching her still sore muscles. "During the environmental trial, I noticed fluctuations in the energy field whenever we demonstrated unexpected adaptations. They're measuring something beyond our physical responses." Maya nodded. "Then we need to understand what they want. Knowledge is tactical advantage." The chamber door dissolved, revealing Talzin accompanied by the imposing figure of Vexilla. The humans stood instinctively, recognizing the power dynamic at play. "You have demonstrated remarkable capabilities," Vexilla addressed them directly. "Now you face the impossible paradigm, a challenge no species has ever overcome." The chamber transformed around them, walls expanding to reveal what appeared to be a vast starfield interspersed with crystalline structures that pulsed with energy. At the center floated a dark sphere that seemed to devour light, a miniature representation of a black hole. "This simulation represents the Void Crisis," Talzin explained, "a quantum anomaly that consumes energy patterns essential to our civilization's technology. It has appeared in 17 star systems and resists all containment efforts." "You want us to solve your scientific crisis?" Sanjay asked, already studying the simulation with intense interest. "We want to determine if your species possesses the cognitive framework to approach problems beyond our understanding," Vexilla corrected. "The simulation is scaled to your comprehension level, but maintains all essential properties of the actual phenomenon." Maya exchanged glances with her companions. "And if we succeed?" "Terms can be negotiated," Vexilla stated without commitment. "Failure carries no additional consequence. You have already exceeded expectations." As the Merodians withdrew to their observation post, the humans gathered around the simulation. "It's beautiful," Elena whispered, watching the interplay of energies. And deadly, Sanjay added. If I'm interpreting correctly, this represents a quantum-level corruption of natural laws, like a virus in the fabric of space-time. Marcus studied the holographic controls that had appeared. They've provided tools for manipulation and analysis. Shall we begin? For hours, they worked through approaches that Merodian science had already attempted. Containment fields, energy redirection, particle countermeasures. Each failed, the dark sphere continuing its inexorable consumption of the crystalline structures. We're thinking like them, Maya finally said, frustrated. Using their parameters, their technology, their understanding of physics. You're right, Sanjay agreed, pushing away from the control panel. We need to approach this as humans, not as imitation Merodians. What makes humans different? Elena asked. What do we have that they don't? Improvisation, Marcus suggested. They've evolved in a structured hierarchy with predictable technological progression. We've survived through chaotic adaptation. Maya's eyes lit with understanding and imagination. They're literal thinkers. We see possibilities they can't conceive. Exactly, Sanjay said excitedly. They're treating this anomaly as a problem to solve. But what if it's actually a natural process they're interrupting? What if the cure is making things worse? Working with renewed purpose, they reconfigured the simulation, not to fight the void phenomenon but to understand it at a fundamental level. Sanjay applied theoretical physics beyond current human capabilities, but guided by intuitive leaps. Elena contributed perspectives on natural systems and flow dynamics. Marcus applied principles of medical healing, treating the fabric of space as a patient requiring balanced intervention rather than aggressive treatment. Maya coordinated their efforts while scanning the simulation for patterns others might miss. There, she eventually pointed to seemingly random fluctuations at the void's perimeter. It's not just consuming, it's transforming. The energy doesn't disappear, it changes state. Like a metamorphosis, Marcus agreed. Not destruction, but evolution. Then perhaps we shouldn't be fighting it, Sanjay suggested, but guiding it, providing a channel for the transformation that doesn't disrupt crucial systems. Working together, they reconfigured the simulation to create conduits that directed the void's transformative energy into constructive patterns rather than destructive consumption. Instead of containing the phenomenon, they integrated it into the existing system. Gradually, the simulation stabilized. The void remained, but now as a pulsing heart within a network of crystalline structures that flourished rather than diminished. From their observation post, the Merodians watched in stunned silence. Impossible, Vexela finally whispered. They've achieved homeostasis with the void. Not by conquering it, Talzin noted with awe, but by adapting to it. A solution our entire civilization couldn't conceive. When the Merodians re-entered the chamber, their posture had subtly changed. The arrogance was tempered with something new, respect. You have accomplished what 17 species across 12,000 years of combined technological development could not, Vexila stated. You saw not an enemy to be defeated, but a process to be understood. That's the human approach, Maya replied simply. We've survived by adapting, not by dominating. Your perspective has revealed possibilities we never considered, Talzin admitted. We've been attempting to preserve our technological systems unchanged, rather than allowing them to evolve with the phenomenon. Evolution can be guided but rarely prevented, Marcus offered. That's true for biology, technology, and apparently, quantum physics. Vexala's antennae twitched in what the humans now recognized as intense interest. We propose an exchange. Your species will remain officially undiscovered by the Merodian Collective, allowing your natural development to continue without interference. In return, selected representatives will join a multi-species research initiative addressing the void crisis. Cultural exchange rather than conquest, Maya observed. A wise choice. Necessity sometimes begets wisdom, Vexela acknowledged. Even for a civilization as ancient as ours. We cannot speak for all humanity, Sanjay cautioned, but we can bring your proposal to our leaders. and advocate for cooperation, Elena added. Humanity is ready to join the galactic community, not as subjects, but as partners. Perhaps, Vexilla concluded, her tone suggesting a profound shift in perspective. It is the Merodian collective that wasn't ready for humanity. Until now. As preparations began for their return to Earth, Maya reflected on their journey. They had been abducted as specimens, but were returning as ambassadors. Humanity had faced its first cosmic challenge, not with superior technology or military might, but with their uniquely human capacity to imagine the impossible and then make it possible. The challenge had seemed impossible, but humans had found a way, as they always had, as they always would.